Welcome to an exploration of how we can consciously rebuild ourselves through the power of neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a static organ. It is constantly rewiring itself, creating new connections and pathways with every thought and experience. Let's begin by understanding what neuroplasticity really means for our capacity to change. Neuroplasticity is the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. When two neurons communicate repeatedly, the connection between them strengthens. This is the physical basis of learning and memory. Repeated neural activity leads to stronger connections, which ultimately creates new behaviors and thought patterns. For decades, scientists believed the adult brain was fixed and unchangeable after childhood, but research has completely overturned this view. The reality is that your brain continues to physically change throughout your entire life, adapting to new experiences and learning. Let's look at the remarkable numbers that show just how dynamic your brain really is. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each capable of forming thousands of connections. These neurons create about 100 trillion synaptic connections, forming the intricate network that makes you who you are. Each neuron connects to thousands of others, creating a network more complex than any computer system ever built. Here's an important question. How fast can your brain actually change when you learn something new? Within minutes of learning, immediate changes occur at the synaptic level as neurotransmitter receptors are modified. Within hours, your neurons begin synthesizing new proteins that will strengthen or weaken specific connections. After weeks of practice, actual structural changes become visible, with new dendrites and synapses forming. The foundation of neuroplasticity is captured in a simple principle called Hebbian learning. This equation describes Hebbian learning. The change in connection strength between neurons I and J equals the learning rate times their activities. In simple terms, when two neurons activate at the same time repeatedly, the connection between them becomes stronger and more efficient. The top connection is weak and rarely used. The bottom connection has been strengthened through repeated co-activation, making it thick and efficient. Consider learning to play piano. At first, the neural pathways for finger movements are weak and disconnected. In week 1, every movement requires slow, deliberate effort and intense concentration as your brain builds new connections. By week 52, those same movements become automatic and fluid, requiring almost no conscious thought because the neural pathways are now deeply ingrained. Now let's explore how this neuroplasticity relates to our sense of identity and who we believe ourselves to be. We can think of identity as the sum of all your neural patterns multiplied by how frequently each pattern activates. Your sense of identity emerges from the neural pathways you activate most frequently through your thoughts, behaviors, and habits. This chart represents different aspects of identity based on neural activation frequency. The taller the bar, the more dominant that pattern is in defining who you are. This raises a crucial question. Can we intentionally change these neural patterns to transform our identity? The answer is absolutely yes. Through deliberate practice and consistent repetition, we can reshape these patterns neuron by neuron. Let's break down the systematic process of reinventing yourself through neuroplasticity. First, identify the specific neural pattern or behavior you want to change. Be precise about what you want to transform. Let's use procrastination as an example of an old pattern that needs to be transformed. Step 2 is to clearly design the new pattern you want to create. What will replace the old behavior? We design a new pattern of taking immediate action instead of delaying tasks. Research shows that on average, it takes about 66 days of consistent repetition to form a new automatic habit. Step 3 is creating environmental triggers that will activate your new neural pathway instead of the old one. Set up clear triggers in your environment that will automatically prompt the new behavior you're trying to build. Step 4 requires practicing with focused attention. Mindless repetition is far less effective than deliberate, conscious practice. The learning rate equals attention times repetition times emotional intensity. All three factors multiply your brain's ability to rewire. Studies show that focused attention can amplify neuroplastic changes by up to 300% compared to unfocused practice. But creating new patterns is only half the story. We must also understand neural pruning. The brain follows a use it or lose it principle. Neural connections that are not regularly activated will weaken and eventually disappear. This shows neural pruning over 8 weeks. The gray connections have weakened from lack of use while the yellow ones remain strong through continued activation. Mathematically, synaptic strength decays exponentially over time without use, following this decay equation where K is the decay constant. This exponential decay explains why old habits gradually fade when we consistently stop reinforcing them and build new patterns instead. There's another crucial component to neural change that we need to understand: myelin. Myelin is a fatty insulating layer that wraps around frequently used neural pathways, dramatically speeding up signal transmission. The thin line shows a basic neural pathway. The thick line with blue myelin sheaths shows how frequently used pathways get insulated for faster transmission. Myelination can increase neural transmission speed by approximately 100 times, making skilled behaviors almost instantaneous. Through deep, focused practice, you literally build myelin around your most used neural pathways, making them faster and more automatic. This is why experts can perform incredibly complex skills that seem effortless. Their neural pathways are heavily myelinated through years of practice. Many people believe there are critical periods after which the brain cannot change. Let's address this myth. A common myth is that the brain stops being plastic after age 25 when the prefrontal cortex finishes developing. The reality is that neuroplasticity continues throughout your entire life, though the nature of plasticity does evolve with age. While plasticity is highest in childhood, it remains substantial throughout adulthood. The bars show relative plasticity levels across different age ranges. Adult neuroplasticity requires more conscious effort and repetition than childhood learning, but it remains remarkably powerful when properly harnessed. In adults, learning success is directly proportional to the amount of deliberate, focused practice you invest, represented by this constant K. Let's look at some real-world examples of dramatic personal transformation through neuroplasticity. London taxi drivers show physically enlarged hippocampus from years of navigating complex city streets, proving adult brains physically change through practice. Stroke patients can recover lost functions by training healthy brain regions to take over the work of damaged areas through intensive rehabilitation. Long-term meditation practitioners develop measurably thicker prefrontal cortices and demonstrate superior emotional regulation abilities. This growth curve shows how skills develop over time with consistent practice. Notice the exponential growth pattern in the early stages. One of the most powerful aspects of neuroplasticity is how small changes compound over time. Your identity at time t equals your starting identity times 1 plus your rate of change raised to the power of time. Small rates compound dramatically. If you improve just 1% each day, you'll be 37 times better after 1 year due to the power of compounding growth. This is the mathematical basis. 1.01 raised to the 365th power equals approximately 37.8. This exponential curve visualizes compound growth. The curve appears flat at first, but rockets upward as changes accumulate over time. Consistent small daily actions reshape neural pathways far more effectively than occasional big efforts, because repetition is key to neuroplasticity. Let me give you a practical protocol for consciously rewiring your brain to achieve transformation. Every morning, spend 10 minutes visualizing yourself embodying your desired identity. Activate those neural patterns through mental rehearsal. Throughout the day, catch yourself when old patterns activate and immediately redirect your thoughts and actions toward the new pattern. Each evening, review and mentally reinforce the new behaviors you successfully practiced that day, strengthening those neural connections. Your total transformation is the integral of your daily practice over time. Every day's effort accumulates into lasting change. This cycle of visualize, practice, and review creates a powerful feedback loop that accelerates neural rewiring and identity transformation. Your brain will resist change because old patterns are comfortable and energy efficient. Let's address this resistance. The brain has a powerful homeostatic drive to maintain familiar patterns, even when those patterns are limiting or negative. Resistance is inversely proportional to repetitions. The more you repeat the new pattern, the less resistance you'll experience. This chart shows how psychological resistance decreases over time with consistent practice. The hardest part is the beginning, but it gets easier. The key strategy is to expect resistance and plan for it in advance, rather than being surprised when your brain fights the change. Use implementation intentions by deciding in advance. When situation X happens, I will automatically do behavior Y. Your brain doesn't change in isolation. Social factors powerfully influence neuroplasticity and identity transformation. Mirror neurons cause us to unconsciously mimic the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors of people we spend time with. Research suggests your identity approximates the average of your 5 closest relationships. Choose your social environment carefully. You are at the center, connected to your 5 closest relationships. These connections don't just influence you, they physically shape your neural patterns. Strategically surround yourself with people who already embody the identity you're trying to build. Their patterns will influence yours. How can you measure whether your neural rewiring efforts are actually working? Let's discuss concrete metrics. Track the frequency of new versus old behaviors daily. The ratio should steadily shift toward the new pattern over weeks. Calculate your progress as the number of times you chose the new behavior divided by total opportunities, times 100%. This bar chart shows increasing success rates over time. Each bar represents a week, and you can see steady improvement as neural patterns strengthen. Pay attention to emotional markers too. As patterns become ingrained, you'll notice reduced internal resistance and increased ease of execution. Watch for the cognitive shift where the new behavior starts feeling natural and automatic rather than forced and deliberate. Let's map out a realistic timeline for significant identity transformation through conscious neuroplasticity. In days 1 through 21, you're in the conscious effort phase with high resistance, and you'll frequently forget to practice the new pattern. From days 22 to 66, you're building automaticity. Resistance decreases significantly, but you'll still experience occasional lapses. Between days 67 and 200, the integration phase begins. The behavior feels increasingly natural, and your sense of identity starts to genuinely shift. After 200 days, you'll reach full integration, where the new behavior is automatic and your identity has transformed.